Let's solve Only Murders in the Building, Episode 6, To Protect and Serve. We'll be breaking down each episode for clues, suspects, and red herrings on the hunt to learn who killed Tim Kono, Zoe Cassidy, Evelyn the cat, poisoned Winnie the dog, who is Angel the black market jewelry dealer. Spoilers for the first 6 episodes. If you haven't seen the first 6 episodes of Only Murders in the Building, crack open your 13% alcohol gut milk and watch an old episode of Herman's Head. Before we dive into the suspects and clues this week, we need to tackle something right at the top. Only Murders in the Building got renewed for Season 2 last week, and we got a lot of feedback like this from Jen. Didn't the show get renewed for another season? If so, I'd imagine the 3 main characters would be back to solve another crime. Then I doubt any of them would be guilty of killing Tim Kono. Jillian wrote something similar. Now that the show's been renewed for Season 2, I definitely think our big 3 are innocent. They're the center of the show. They wouldn't be involved in anything that would hinder their involvement in Season 2. Random Human 19 wrote, I never thought it was going to be any of the 3 stars for the obvious reason that if the show was a hit, they'd be needed for additional seasons. If you're thinking that way, that could absolutely be correct. There's no guarantee that any of the big 3 are the killer of Tim Kono, but I'm not sure it's prudent to cross Oliver, Charles, or Mabel off the suspect list just yet. Are we really sure that 76-year-old Steve Martin wants to agree to be in a long-running TV series? He's never been a regular on a TV show before in his life. Are we sure Selena Gomez wouldn't want to be starring in movies or going out on a concert tour rather than agreeing to another 6-month shoot for a TV series? Plus, the DNA of this show requires a shocking ending. If you're familiar with the true crime case The Staircase, think of the owl. So how are we going to get that shocking ending? Maybe the killer is Jan. Would that really be a shocking ending based on the first 6 episodes? Possibly if she grows closer to Charles and they really have a bond, but shocking? We're halfway through. We don't even have many clues about Jan or any of the non-major suspects. Jan lives on the 6th floor, apartment 6A, which is the floor Tim Kono got on the elevator from in the first episode. We could assume things like maybe Tim's mail for 9A was going to Jan in 6A. Maybe Jan's stepsister was Zoe. This is all assumptions. We really don't have many clues for people other than our big 3. So that's a look at Jan, who I still think should be a suspect. But let's look at Oliver, for example. We've pointed out before that Oliver gets off the elevator and there's Evelyn the cat on his floor the night Tim Kono died. Plus, let's listen to this great feedback from Noyanica, who wrote, in the first episode, before sitting down and starting Cinda's podcast, Oliver switches on his fireplace. The whole building knows not to switch on their fireplaces because Tim Kono said he had asthma. Think about it. We still don't know what triggered the fire alarm. Are these 2 things related? Oliver switches on his fireplace, then the fire alarm goes off, which provides cover to kill Tim Kono? What about the fact that Oliver sticks his dog in the doggy carrier, which has wheels, and he's supposed to be going down flights of stairs in this dog carrier with wheels? That's without even looking at all of Oliver's backstory. Now, we're not saying Oliver is the killer, but we're not sure you should remove a main suspect like Oliver from the suspect list just yet. All right, let's jump back to the show. Please, we really need you to subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on YouTube. Please hit that like button, tickle that like button. If you don't, you're probably a freaky twin or a triplet or a whatever. Besides giving us a like, why not do us a solid? And like my yard dog homies, boost the podcast on Twitter or social media. Tell people about it if you like it. Each week we award the last laugh, the most hilarious moment in the episode, and this had a bunch. What was your favorite? We loved Oliver's not-so-subtle attempt to not rip up that check. We mentioned him last week, but now it's time to look at the double C's, the credit clues. The opening credits are different in each week's show. Here they all are together. In the first week, Easter egg is on the arch above Bunny. In the second episode, 2 spotlights are in the courtyard where all the 3 main suspects are looking at the apartments. In the third episode, there's a bumblebee outside Charles's window, aka Sting. In the fourth episode, we have a brief shot of a tie-dye moon. In the fifth, the hula girl doll is on Oliver's windowsill, just like it'll be on his dashboard of his yellow car. In this week's episode, you see this angel. One final note about the credits is you watch these credits, there are cats everywhere. I'm saying there are cats everywhere, where we really only know of one cat, Evelyn, R.I.P. Are all these cats pointing us towards Howard Morris? Didn't the neighbors say that this cat was getting into people's apartment, possibly like a jewelry thief would? Howard Morris hasn't shown up for a while, but his name did get mentioned in this episode. We've got to keep him on the suspect list. Before we get to the suspects, I want to mention that Charles and Oliver are going out on tour again in 2022. That's right, Steve Martin and Martin Short are out on tour. Get a ticket if they come to your city. Who knows? This might be your last time to see them before they're in jail. What did episode 6 teach us about our victim, Tim Kono? Tim was obsessed with buying jewelry pieces from this black market dealer, Angel. Should we assume that Angel sent these jewelry pieces in the mail? Should we assume that Tim died before he got that green ring, the one that we were told he really wanted? Tim's toxicology report and his cell phone were never really followed up by the police. The higher-ups at the police department wanted all hands off. Was this because Tim was an informant? What do you think? If we can trust Mabel, the text that Tavo sent her included a picture of the infamous green ring, the one that Zoe was wearing at the ill-fated New Year's Eve party. If we can trust Oscar, Zoe wasn't wearing the ring when they discovered her body at the bottom of the Arconia. How did she lose the ring before she went over the side? What do you think Tim Kono's phone password will be? Is it possible the password would be Mabel? What if it's Zoe? Not enough characters. What if it's Hardy or Hardy Boys? What do you think Tim's password is? We got more feedback. Jen wrote, I think Tim wanted to make everything right. I think he was down on the 6th floor in the first episode collecting the stolen jewelry from the killer. He put it in a garbage bag and then hid it in his books. The engagement ring, which Mabel and Charles found, was intended for Zoe, and he just needed to fix the past and show tie-dye guy Oscar was innocent. So, who lives on the 6th floor? Well, we know that's the Dimases, we know Jan lives on the 6th floor, and we know it's Mrs. Endoko. Damien gave us this feedback where he said, here's my theory, sorry if you hate it, Mabel was gonna kill Tim, but didn't. Tim grabs the gun and shot himself because of his high bills and he was getting fired. Damien, who cares what we think? We want to know what you think. We're just some idiots working on a podcast when we should be doing our work. Psst, don't tell our boss. Following up on last week's suspects, where we dismissed the bearded guy in the picture that got covered by Sting on the suspect board, JT wrote this feedback. If not Oscar, the bearded guy from 11D, whose picture was covered by Sting, would be my main suspect. Why? Because Zoe's family owned the entire 11th floor, and he could be a relative of Zoe's, now seeking revenge for her death. Teddy Dimas. Teddy had some good news, a great shout out on the Jimmy Fallon Show. Is a mention on the Jimmy Fallon Show worth $35,000? I don't know, but its going rate has gone up to $50,000. Teddy heard Charles say, we lost one of our partners and it wouldn't be right. And that led Teddy to go into his monologue about his family and his grandma who held on to that coin. If Teddy is Angel, the black market jewelry dealer, he's really not doing the best job of hiding. He's got the name Angel on one of his checks? Teddy, you got to do a better job of hiding out, buddy. Or is this a sign that Angel isn't Teddy? Vanessa wrote, I think the murderer is Teddy Dimas. He has too much money. He could possibly be using his dip business, well, it's a whole deli, but sure, his dip business as a cover to cover up the jewelry traffic. He lived on the 6th floor. Tim Kono was coming from floor 6 when he died. He knew about the podcast, so he could certainly know to poison Winnie, the dog. Vanessa, that's a great point. For everybody who's watched the Mel Brooks movie, The Producers, how do you hide a lot of money? Well, you had invested in Broadway shows that fail, and Oliver's shows sure seem to fail. Is that what Teddy's doing? AKA Angel? We'll see. One flashback of feedback, Broderick wrote, the room Mabel's Hardy Boys breaks into has the same floral pattern as Bunny's, aka we see Bunny's wallpaper when Mabel and Charles steal the package which contains the engagement ring. Broderick also cracked, Bunny looks like she takes a lot of meds. Hello. Time to look at the big four. On last week's podcast, we mentioned that Oscar, in our opinion, doesn't seem to be the killer. But Oscar still has some very odd things happening. In this episode 6, Oscar refers to Zoe as his girlfriend, but he is flirting like crazy like Mabel in the past and in the present. He's been away for 10 years, but all he wanted to see was Mabel. We got feedback on this before episode 6 even aired. Jay wrote, Oscar was flirting hard with Mabel. Maybe he always had a crush on her, even when he was dating Zoe. Maybe Zoe knew this, which caused them to start fighting at the party. I don't think Oscar killed Zoe, but I'm not letting him off the hook so easy for Tim's murder just yet. Every time Mabel brings up something, he keeps saying he wants to just forget about it and have a fresh start. Rochelle wrote, I think Tim pushed Zoe off the building, and then tie-dye guy Oscar killed Tim because his lie sent him to prison. And then Mabel is going to kill tie-dye guy Oscar because she loves Tim. Oh, Rochelle, great feedback. Our friend in Germany wrote, I still think Oscar is suspicious. Even if he just wanted to visit Tim Kono, why did he go when the fire alarm was going off? I have the feeling that Oscar will become a main suspect in the show and that somebody's going to murder him out of revenge, possibly Mabel. Plus, we got this feedback from Mora Adventure, who wrote, Everyone was coming down the stairs because of the alarm. What made Oscar think that Tim Kono would still be in his apartment when he was coming down? Well, More Adventure, how about this? When Oscar leaves the stairs and goes to Tim Kono's apartment, he's got a bag slung over his shoulder that he's holding on to. What was in that bag? What was Oscar gonna do to Tim Kono? Let's talk about Charles. Not too much this week, but Charles mentions that his relationship with Mabel has made him felt something. The most alive he's felt in a decade. What happened a decade ago? Well, Zoe's death. Also, Charles doesn't remember who Winnie the dog is. Charles, snap out of it. This episode really focused on our Triple M, our mistletoe Mabel Mora. All this information comes from Mabel's mom, Sylvia. She didn't approve of Mabel still being in contact with Tim and really is shocked when she finds out Tim was murdered. According to her, the Arconia is no good for Mabel. Why? Because she thinks her daughter is trapped in the past. She says her daughter has night fears. The mom is upset, thinking that somehow that all this stuff around the Arconia dragged her daughter into the worst thing that ever happened to her. The worst thing that ever happened to her is this depression, we're supposed to believe, this sadness, these night terrors, this ghost of grief. Sylvia mentions that it's her rich sister who lived in the Arconia. How did this sister get rich? Where is Mabel's aunt? Where did she go? We see Mabel in the 6th grade with a bowl cut. Mabel, who we've just been told has been suffering a decade of grief and stuck in the past from Zoe's death, still doesn't seem to have trouble fooling around with Zoe's boyfriend, Oscar, and she claims to have been waiting for Oscar. Mabel's mom, Sylvia, mentions Oscar is looking at Mabel the same way he used to look at her as a teenager. So wait a minute. Even 10 years ago, Mabel's mom could tell that Oscar really liked her daughter, Mabel, and not Zoe? What is going on here? Because I keep focusing so much on Mabel, let's just go with a full theory for Mabel. Mabel has a crush on her friend Zoe's boyfriend, Oscar. A night of a New Year's Eve party, she sees Zoe wearing a ring. She's the one who notices it and draws attention to it. Is it because Mabel wants that ring? Later on at the rooftop party, Mabel's drinking. They're having fun, but she is flirting with Oscar, which causes a fight between Zoe and Oscar. They go off and fight. Mabel later finds Zoe, gets the ring, throws her off the side. Later on, Tim Kono says, I saw Zoe fighting with someone. Mabel asks who. Tim doesn't say who. Maybe because he doesn't want to say you in front of her, thinking she might have killed Zoe. 10 years later, Tim, for various reasons, has to become an informant. The police know jewelry has been stolen from the Arconia, and they want Tim to help them catch who did it. Tim doesn't want to do it because he knows that some of this jewelry was stuff Zoe stole, and if Zoe stole it, then the only one able to do it, because Oscar's in prison, would be Mabel hawking it. Tim is trying to get all that jewelry from the black market dealer Angel to keep Mabel from going to prison from stealing all this jewelry and hawking all this jewelry. Mabel finds out. Mabel has to silence Tim. Tim gone. Hey, that's a crazy theory. I want to hear your crazy theories. We're more than halfway through, and it's exciting. It's close. We're getting to it, people. We love feedback so much. Please, on Twitter, @PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P, the letters HQ for headquarters. @PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. If you're on YouTube, once again, smash that like button and leave us a comment. Here's your feedback for this week. E-Man wrote, I think Sting's assistant is the killer who poisoned the dog. E-Man, we don't have enough clues to join you on the Anita is the killer theory just yet. But we love the idea that an assistant has to do very bad things to keep Sting happy. Yikes! Christoph wrote, how is this show not more popular? Christoph, if you're talking about this podcast, you got to share it like the yard dog so it can get more popular. Before the show began on August 25th, we tweeted out an article from Variety talking about how Hulu, which is the app the show is shown on here in the United States, it has a content crisis trouble, and Hulu may be dying here in the United States. I've mentioned this multiple times, but around the world, to watch this show, you actually go into Disney Plus, and then if you have this add-on Star, or Hotstar, or Star Plus, depending where you live in the world, that's how you see the show. So I think it's growing. I think we have a lot of great fans. Certainly, we're getting a lot of great feedback on this podcast. I think Only Murders in the Building, when people watch it, they love it. Word of mouth, it's going to be big. This is going to grow. Jazzler wrote, I swear, I'm going to throw my every theory out the window and just continue watching this empty-headed, LOL. I hope they don't mess up the whodunit murder mystery aspect of the show. Hopefully it's not a random character at the end with some weird twist. I want the killer to be from the buildings, fingers crossed. We had some great Lucy theories, including this one from JT who wrote, Lucy is my main suspect for Zoe's murder. Using Brazos episode 713 as a time reference, if Emma and Lucy left Charles around that time, that would make Lucy 28 now, or around the same age as Mabel. Tim knew everyone in the building, which means he must have known Lucy. JT's guess is that Tim invited Lucy back to the Arconia for the rooftop party, and perhaps was the reason why he slicked up his hair. And once again, we think Tim didn't say who he saw fighting with Zoe because he was protecting someone he cared for. As for Lucy being Tim's killer, JT wrote, I don't think so. If he had protected her secret for so long, there's no reason for her to kill him now. Jay also got in on the Lucy train. Jay assumes Lucy is probably in her early 20s, considering she's FaceTiming with Arnov's daughter. Maria wrote, I'm thinking about the comment Tim said when Mabel complimented his hair that night. He said, it's going to be too dark for anyone to notice. Too dark for anyone to see the murderer as well, right? What if the suicide notes Mabel found in the trash didn't belong to Tim, but belonged to somebody else? Charles? Could be. He's depressed. Does he want to die? I thought it was Sting's trash, and I thought those suicide notes sounded like song lyrics. Sella wrote, has anyone mentioned that Mabel and Zoe were clearly flirting the night Zoe died? Sella, that is a great thought. You're saying there was some jealousy or love between those two, and that Mabel wasn't in love with Oscar, wasn't in love with Tim, but in fact in love with Zoe. That is a smart thought. Could be. Zero Cool wrote, I think there's two people involved in the killing. One, I think Oscar's dad killed Tim Kono because he found out Kono actually killed Zoe and not his son Oscar. The second person, I'm not sure, Zero Cool wrote. We don't know yet, but that's my theory. I'm loving the show so far. Wish episodes were at least 40 minutes long. Sarah wrote, my eye is on Theo Dimas. In episode 3, we see Oliver go to the Dimas apartment, and Teddy and Oliver are talking. But for some reason, we see Theo go and sit down at the desk, take his phone out, and point it towards the conversation, almost like he's going to record something. Maybe lip reading? Just caught my eye as something odd. Only 4 more episodes left until we find out who killed Tim Kono. Are we close? Are we far? If you disagree with us, that is completely fine. We need everybody's thoughts and clues because we're going to solve it. In 4 weeks, we're going to solve who killed Tim Kono. Please like, subscribe, write a review if you're listening on the podcast. We really haven't had one of those in a while, and it would be great. Until next time, Clue Crew, we'll see you next week.